Din says that Din says that when a person is eating, there are some people that are self-conscious. In fact, most people are self-conscious. These people, when they are eating, somebody stands and stares at them, they practically choke on what they swallow. They just can't eat while somebody is looking and staring at them. And therefore, it is a din that is forbidden to look, stare, especially at a person who is eating, and also not to stare at what he's eating because you're embarrassing him that way. The nice memory once told it, but it's very apropos here. So, one of the greats of the past in the time of Hashem Tov, he was Baal Shem Tov's Badchan. He used to bring simcha to Baal Shem Tov. He was a very poor person, went around begging, and he used to go to those rich people who are very miserly. He came to one rich man, and he said to him, try to get inside and get a meal. That was impossible. He came back to know, he said, rich man said, what do you want? He said, I got some news from your old hometown. Yeah. He said, oh, great. He's waiting for news. Come inside. He said, I can't talk, well, without an empty stomach. Okay, it's worth it. He said, here's a meal. Sit down to eat. Pesha was hungry. He had eaten for quite a while. He starts eating. He says, how's Chaim Getzel? He says, oh, he's dead. Rich man says, what? He's dead. How's Yaakov? Oh, he's dead. He keeps going down. He's eating fast. Everybody dead. He says, wait a minute. What's this? The Eshel says, when I eat, everybody's dead. In other words, that he was able to ignore the outsiders, but the average person is very self-conscious, and that's why you're not supposed to look or stare at one who's eating. Also, as we said to when is he supposed to? When they go to work? At the table, most important is to eat Torah. It means that at the table a person is supposed to learn Torah. We mentioned once that according to the Rav, the Mishnah says that at the Eved, the person benches, the benching you have psukim, so the Eved, the person gets with that to the Eved. No person, unless a person doesn't bench, that person's Eved. The person benches, so at least he knows he hasn't committed the folly, the crime, the sin. But the ikid is to learn Torah. And the benching itself, what is the connection of benching and Torah? You have in the benching itself the bracha for Torah, the bracha for benching, the bracha for Eretz Yisrael. The whole meaning of the brachas which are Mesakin, Al Oretz, Al Nosson. Al Oretz means Eretz Yisrael. Torah. This is what there's. I don't know if you heard about this, but there's a story in the Chumash about Moshe Feinstein was Mispal, Mischanel Hashem, he didn't Eretz Yisrael. So this is the question, of course, why he was supposed to get there. So we haven't got to that topic, but anyhow, to get to this, as Chana Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu said, what was his point? The posek in Chumash, Hashem said to Moshe, this is my name. Hashem said, Zeh Shmi Li'aylam, Zeh Zichri L'Dayadai. This is my name, Li'aylam, Shmi Li'aylam, Zeh Zichri L'Dayadai. What's Zeh V'Zeh? What was Hashem saying? Zeh and Zeh. There's something hidden there. Hashem hid the name of Hashem. That Zeh Shmi Li'aylam, the Yud K, together with Shmi, is Shin Samach Hey. 365 mitzvahs leisaseh. Zeh Zichri, Vav K with Zichri. There's an Eish Memches mitzvahs aseh. Shmi and Zichri together with Yud K and Vav K is Ramach mitzvahs aseh, Shaseh leisaseh, and that together is Tariag mitzvahs. This is what Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe said to Hashem, Hashem Meisi Leimad. What was the Kavod of Moshe Rabbeinu? What do you want? He said, I want the mitzvahs. Hashem said, Moshe Rabbeinu, but I want the mitzvahs. So what? I want the tag mitzvahs. I can't get it outside of Eretz Yisrael. I want them to do it. The mitzvahs mitzvahs. Hashem said, look into the posek. What does it say? When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, he saw ki toiv. What's the word Dafka ki toiv? The Zohar Kodesh says this was the Shechina. They didn't say ki toiv because he was born together with the Shechina, the light that filled the house that was light of Shechina. The oil of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because it says means Vayalakim es ha'oil ki toyos. That oil. That same ki toyos. Vayalakim es ha'oil begimatria Moshe Rabbeinu es ha'oil begimatria Tariag. So really, that's the light of the Torah, which is Moshe is the earth Torah. Hashem said, Moshe is Avraham. What do you want? Take this place. Es ha'oil ki toyos. That's Moshe himself. You don't give up the Tariag, so you have it. You got it. This was the kavanah Moshe for these mitzvahs. And this is Eretz Yisrael, which is the only makom we can complete all the mitzvahs. And that's why a person in eating is supposed to learn Torah, mamshich the kedusha of Torah, mamshich Eretz Yisrael to his Torah, which is the mizbeach, and thereby be able to fulfill by R Nosson alone the Tayeg mitzvahs. So Menachem says that the mitzvah charotzah, the ikir rotzah, is shayach by achila, not by eating. Imagine serving Hashem more at the time of the eating than anywhere else. That's the koyach of the kedusha and mizbeach. So therefore, a person should learn at the table. Now the Gemara says that a person, if food is brought before a person, this food has a powerful, pleasant aroma, and this makes a person's mouth water. You must give that person a little bit of that food, otherwise it's dangerous. Because when a person's mouth waters because of a desire, craving for food, he swallows that saliva that is very dangerous to his health. Therefore, the shamus, which means the one who serves, brings his food, he stands there drooling right into the plate. Give him the plate. Let him eat it. Let him bring a different plate. The shamus is supposed to be given this food because you're not allowed to do something dangerous to him. Remember, we had this story recently, very recently, I think it was before the Kippur, mentioned the story about this Roman who wanted to marry this woman. Story of a Roman. They also want I've got the mitzvah, I want to go into this sort of stuff. So, this woman refused to marry him for anything. You were the last man on earth. He said, no, we'll see. Obviously, he was no catch. But he had a little brains enough to take care of himself. So he brought around some fruit, pomegranates, which are very juicy. They stood in front and started to eat it, and the juice was dripping down. She looked at it, and it was a very hypnotic move. She just looked at it and started to drool. He kept on eating and dripping in the juice, and she was drooling and swallowing, and suddenly her stomach began to become bloated. When she swallows that, it's like a worm that fills up. And she started to swell up like the mace like that. He kept on doing it until she said she was literally in danger of dying. Well, what do you do now? Where did this come from? What is it? So she was desperate, crying. She had everything. So he said to her, you want to die? You want to be cured? If you want to live, marry me, and I will cure you. If not, then you'll die. So she thought to herself, it was a very rough decision. What's better, to die or to marry him? Very tough decision. But she finally figured that when there's life, there's hope. So she agreed. The Lord says that he told her, I'll do this again. And if she should do it again, she'll burst. So I do it again. The first time it comes, expectorate. Expectorate is the expect to rate. And then we keep on doing this. We started to eat. She spat out. And this kept on going for a while until like a worm, a long worm came out. This was the core of this disease, and she was cured. And then they lived ever after. They lived after. Get married. Now this is the lesson. The moral of the story is, if you smell food, then either stop it or else partake of it. That's why on a tunnus, of course, it's dangerous to the sacrifice women make, preparing food, cooking food in a tunnus. Now, Arizal says, Arizal writes about this in very much detail, that the Shama This is a very important point. If we mentioned it before, it's worth mentioning again. If not, then it certainly is very vital, especially when we'll finish with this. Arizal says that the neshama, which is the most important part of the person, the neshama stands for neshima, breath. All those who breathe should give praise to Hashem. So the breath, the neshama, is the nostrils. Where is the neshama? Padashka. The nostrils is where the neshama is. That's why we mentioned a person sneezed. Used to sneeze, and the neshama came out. He died. The neshama comes from the nostrils, the breath of the nostrils, which means the reyach. That's why the birkas hareyach. When do we learn that you're supposed to make a bracha for reyach, the smell? We learn it from the word called neshama talakot. That's the neshama is the reyach. Arizal says that therefore a person should be very careful to avoid chas v'sholom smelling things that are asur. A person would never eat treif, would never eat chaza. That's eating. It's one thing. It's the body is affected by it. Chas v'sholom. But to walk past a butcher store, a place that sells chaza, where they smell the stench of that comes out to a restaurant trying for food, the person should avoid inhaling that smelling us to the neshama that takes in the chashuv. These are warns about this very strongly. A person should, walking past one of those stores, one of those restaurants, one of those places where they have this chazanai, to avoid, control, block the smell, hold your breath to the nose, breathe through your mouth. Where breathing through the mouth will mean you're still breathing in the aroma. Yet, it's not the same because it's not the neshima, not the nostrils, it's not the smell. And of course, it's possible to hold your breath, and it's a block long, 2 blocks long. So you don't breathe for an hour or so. It's different. You breathe enough. Avoid at all costs, to avoid period, breathing in anything which is treif. First, to show only keep his neshama pure. As the Gemara says, first keeps the neshama pure. Then we have the Nechai Sam, Yizach Derech Av Karein. Shall be zeichet to keep our neshama pure, and the Hashem be emes, the klimus, and the zeichet thereby to get Eden, Mel Hazeh, and Mel Hablah. Mel Hazeh means you get a good wife. The Gemara asks, what's Gan Eden in this world? You get a good wife. What is Gan Eden? What can you imagine Gan Eden? Fish, more meat. A wife who doesn't give you that's Gan Eden. She doesn't give you Mishnah Beidach. That's the greatest. We should be zeichet to that through the emes u'be'amunah. This kasha said, we should see in this world too, with the binyan Beis Hamikdash, should be the place Suda. It is that a person must wash his hands before bread, as we had learned previously. Of course, the hands are tummy. It's not tummy, the hands are tummy. They can make the bread tummy. You must wash before he eats bread. A person does not wash before he eats bread, he's committing a serious sin. At the time of Suda, you have a big problem. What if a person invites guests to his home, and they're not religious? Could he be an accomplice in this crime to offer them bread he knows they're not going to wash? Not religious, not going to wash, could he give them bread? He is taking part in the sin. The Messiah, he helps the ones that commit a sin. The Din says very clearly that you're not allowed to give a person food to eat if you know he's not going to wash his hands for it. Anything but not bread. For instance, you know that he's not going to make a bracha, that's something you cannot see. Maybe he's saying it in his mind or something. You're not responsible for that. But to give him, this is one serious visit, to give him bread when he's not going to wash his posek. How do you go about it? The answer is that if you stand your ground, very politely you say that in my house, these are the rules. If I come to your house, I'll follow your rules. If I don't like them, I won't come to your house. If you don't like them, don't come to my house. So my rules are that every person must wash. I remember that I once had the president of the interest, Russian interest, he came to my house, and we never know if he was Jewish or not. But even he came there with a travel agent, important event, he came with his wife. When he came to the meal, we invited our house for a meal. He didn't do so. Hey, let him go. Maybe he's a good. I went to wash my hands. this other travel agent watches his too. He said, he looked very closely, he wants to do the same thing. He didn't say the Jew at all because maybe he was afraid to, or maybe he wasn't, whatever it was, he insisted he wanted to wash also. So he said, no, fine, welcome. But this was a case of what you call manners, politeness. And we see that if you do something with intent, with serious intent, with sincerity, you'll be more respected for it. You say to a person, wash your hands before you go eat, because you're filthy, wouldn't be that good. If you say this is the rules, not of respect to religion, every person would do it. If a person would be that spiteful, he doesn't deserve bread. Let him eat straw. Now, it says, though, what happens if you get a person who is that bad, is that spiteful, but he's starving? The poor person, he's starving. The answer is then you can give him bread, not as bread, but as tzedakah. This is tzedakah. Sell it, do what you want with it. You have to feed him as tzedakah. That is the exception. The person is that poor, and of course there are people who claim a lot of halachas in that. Okay? By the time a person is traveling, he's rich. But the time he's traveling, he's so poor. He doesn't have his wealth with him. Whereas you can say, I'm not in my house, I'm with you. Those, of course, are very poor excuses. You have to be solid about this din and to insist that the person washes. Even if when he comes to your house to eat a meal, you can very nicely say, wash. So this is, of course, something that probably comes up with poor relatives. Poor meaning poor religion. Every person has some black sheep in the family. They visit his house, and they have to be shown the light. They're right there. As far as drinking wine, the Arizal said a bissel, just a little drop. The Kiddush, the kiss for a simcha, a bissel means the Arizal once invited the Rav Nosson on a toy at his house, and he told them this is a special occasion. Here's drink. He gave them the little whiskey cups that we have. We just covered the bottom. Made the bottom wet. He gave each one of this is good. I wish we could get the results good. Of course, it was good in many ways, but he taught them that this is good, a little bit is good, and a lot is no good. Only on Purim, this they drink a lot. But otherwise, besides Purim, there's no other day of the year, except of course on Pesach for the Seder. You must drink the 4 cups. The 2 is another. So, in general, the drink wine, the Gemara says yayin is called Tikuney, and it's called Rosh. It's called wine is called Rosh means, without an L, means poor, poverty. The person brought the poverty drinking too much wine. Alcoholics go into the Bowery and so on. So, you did say, this is all said by men. How about a woman, a wife? Oh. A wife is not supposed to drink wine, period. Except if husband is not there, she forbidden to touch the stuff. We say wine is kosher, surely whiskey is forbidden. Woman is never allowed to drink whiskey at all if husband's not around. He's around, only the amount that he feeds her. Sometimes he gives her the whole bottle. He says, oh. But otherwise, of course, he should do it right. There's a lot of stories that you know about this. This is, again, too short. This is for Sunday share. But anyway, if the husband if they know the husband does give her a little bit of wine, then she's allowed to drink a little bit of wine even when he's not around, if it's a custom of his place. The best thing is, of course, that women and wine should not mix. And women and wine should not mix either. She's able to tada the emes, to tada, scattered to Fedak Desha, to Arizal, Hashem, that we see with our eyes now, Hanukkah, Hanukkah's Beis HaMikdash, Shlishis, the third Beis HaMikdash, the final Beis HaMikdash, and by Hashem, this says that when the person is invited to somebody's house, for one thing, there's a call of Ein Eidach Machnes Eidach. A guest cannot bring a different guest into the home. If you're invited, be thankful for what you receive. Don't bring with you a second person. In case of a man who used to go around knocking on doors and asking for food. And they would give him a meal. He said, "Yo, this poor man." One day he came around knocking on, there was no man with him. They said, "What's this?" He said, I gave this is my son-in-law, and I promised him, I give him kest, I feed him every day, so I got to take with me to share my meals with him. But a guest cannot bring another guest, enough that you receive yours. Secondly, the Gemara says, you want a chulin. The chulin says that the guest is sitting at a table and the children of the host come by, he's not supposed to take from the table food or sweets and give it to the child of the host. Because perhaps the owner doesn't have any more of this. The owner wants this for the guests that are coming. And if he gives this to the children, the owner will be embarrassed. He won't have any more left. Therefore, he should avoid giving to the children of the host. You know, it says an example, an actual story that happened where a very serious tragedy occurred. A host invited guests to his home. These guests saw the child of the host, and he was very nice. They wanted to play with this boy, and they gave him, the guest had eggs on the table. They gave him eggs, each one. Then the child walked out, holding one egg in each hand and one in his mouth. The father saw this. He became so upset, so angered, so incensed, because this was a time of a famine. He struck this child with such a powerful blow that he killed the child. He looked down and saw his child was dead. He screamed out in anguish. He ran to the roof and threw himself off. His wife came and saw. She threw herself off too. The whole family, the father, mother, and child died because of this occurrence. If this didn't been abided by, and here too, you wouldn't have had this triple tragedy. Therefore, the Gemara says a person should be very careful not to offer the children of the host anything from the table, unless he sees that it's obvious there's enough on the table there's enough of a surplus where there's no problem, no question of there being any embarrassment to the host. It then says that a person who comes into the house, and this would mean also not just the guest, I mean even a husband comes into the house. And there is his wife waiting. He walks in and he may be in a hurry, maybe a little hungry, but the table is not set, not ready to eat. There are some men who will decapitate their wives for this, of course, not to have food ready. Others who will get down on their knees and beg with her. But in the middle case, the Gemara says, the Din says that a person should not walk into the house and say, "Give me to eat," till it is given to him. Don't say, "Give me to eat," until it is given to him. And of course, this case would certainly imply more a case of a person who is a guest, not a person who is the master of his house. He wouldn't wait until his wife gives him. He would, if he doesn't give it to him, he would give it to her. He's strong men. So, in regular case, there's a matter of politeness. It's polite not to say, "Give me something to eat." Wait, because speaking about hosts too are polite, and we'll feed him. It's a question of waiting. It's better to wait and suffer a little, rather than to be impolite without manners and say, "Give me." He then says further that there are certain types of items that are very serious crimes in the Suda. We'll take this up. We'll have a little more time because there's an interesting point involved here. Like we could have a whole share on this. But anyway, these are still laws, dinim, and yet they are also nimusim, manners. It's a matter of derech, which is just as important as Taina itself. We should be zeichet to derech and to couple with Taina. Yachid Talmud Taina derech are an excuse which we also see. Aharon Be'eneinu, B'yas Mishum Ekeinu, B'yas Mishum Ekeinu. But I Suda, then says, Din Shechnarach. So this Din Shechnarach is quoted. The Mokkah is the Rambam. Rambam Hilchos Teshuva says that there are certain things that the Akev Tshuva. A person cannot do Tshuva if he commits a sin that is so serious. One of those things, the Akev Tshuva, is the one who eats from a Suda, a meal where the owner is so poor he doesn't have enough for himself. This person invites himself in, eats from that meal. That is so serious that it's considered a type of gezel, Avak gezel. To a degree, it's considered a degree of gezel. This means even if the owner invites him to eat with him, it's a very serious sin, It's one of those things kosher, very difficult to do tshuva for. This is what the Rambam says, and it's called Misha Echon B'Seuda She'ena Maspekes L'Ba'alecha. That is an amazing item. I had for many years I had a cash on this. Where did the Rambam get this din from? It's not found in the Gemara. Where did he get this lashon from? Exactly this lashon. Seuda She'ena Maspekes L'Ba'alecha. A lot of ways to say this. But this lashon exactly in these words is written in the Zayda Kodesh. Rambam never saw the Zayda Kodesh. It wasn't out of his time. How did he match up what kind of Ruach HaKodesh was there or something how he got these same words? It's a big mystery. Till one day I found that the Rif was brought in the Rif. The Rif brings us to the Rif, of course, we know the Rif was had a Kabbalah from the Chachmei Gemara, which means that it came directly from Rabbi Arizal to the Rif. And that's at least we trace the Mokkah for it. Anyway, it's important to note, very important to note, that this is one of the basic items. A person should be careful when it comes to food, to manners. This is called Benecheretz Achlal. This is called to Rachman. The Arizal says, I think I'm always saying, what is the difference between Chesed and Rachman? Give us a minute. What is it in Chesed and Rachman? First Sfira is Chesed, Aharon Isha Chesed, and then Yitzchak is Kiruv, Yaakov is Emes or Rachman. Between these two Sfiras, Rachman is the Fedes. What is it different in Chesed, kindness, and Rachman, pity? How do you differentiate between these two? Very delicate difference. It's very difficult to be honest to find a difference, but it's written in one of these Kabbalahs for them. Which one? Somebody, these always told me that it brings that the difference is, basic difference is that chesed means a person who does a kindness. He's not asked for it. Of his own will, his own goodness, he does a kindness to somebody else. Rachman means that a person has an ekuda teva, a good quality in his heart, a good heart, a kind heart, but this kindness, this nekuda, is aroused by somebody who asks of him, who asks a favor of him, who pleads with him. The person pleads with him, begs him for a favor, then his goodness is aroused and he has pity, rachman kindness. The difference is that rachman is something which is dormant, it's inactive, it must be aroused before it's put into action. Chesed is something which is a constant flow of goodness. A person goes out on his own doing favors to others. This is what a person must acquire. These midas of chesed, rachman. What about chavruta, din, harshness? This harshness a person must have to counteract, battle, stand strongly against those who are in opposition to Torah, Amunah, the tzadikim, everything of kedusha. There, a person must have this chavruta, this harshness. If a person has that, then he is a shleimus. Chesed, din, rachman, which combines both. We should be zeichet to be Evdei Hashem, all the plot and all the spheres, and that way we should be able to see with our eyes. Zedei Ninu, the chanukas habayis, the final one. Chanukas habayis, I wouldn't say the third bias. The Zedei Kodesh says it's more than that involved. This Shabbos will discuss about the third bias that was looking for the fourth bias. the bias we will see the coming of Mashiach, Ben Beis Hamikdash, and many of them. The din says that you're not allowed to go out to Chassidut. You're not allowed to leave the place, the room in which you're eating. A person is eating in a certain room, he cannot leave from that room to a second room to finish the sunnah. or to go to a different home. Some people start a meal at their home, go to their friends' home to finish the meal. This is against the din. And also, two things: either to leave his table and go to a different place, and then come back to his first place to bench, or to leave his table and go to somewhere else and there to bench. This is against the din, but the Evan, he's Yitzhak. In other words, as long as he washed for bread, he leaves the table and goes elsewhere, and of course there he eats at least the kazayas bread, he can bench where he is, and do the second place. He doesn't want to go back to the first one. Or he can go there and eat a kazayas bread, come back to his first place to bench. That is the Evan. The person should not leave his table even to walk out of the room to come back, if possible. So, as we said, if he did go out, that he could finish his sunnah, the second place that he went to, then he's Yitzhak. The Gemara says this is a machlekes in Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, where Beis Shammai say the person is not allowed to go out elsewhere. If he does, he must go back to his first place to bench. Beis Hillel say he went away, he can bench in the second place where he went to. Let's say a person traveled, he was eating in a certain spot, he got on his horse, galloped away, came to a spot miles away, and then he recalled he had not benched yet. He can eat where he is, bench, or go back. For the Beis Hillel, he is Yitzhak if he eats where he is. Halacha is like Beis Hillel, usually, most cases. In this case, it is like Beis Hillel too. If the other person left this place, came to the second spot, then he may bench in the second place. He's not required to go back. You know, it says there was one person, there were two men, it happened to both of them at different times. They left their place, they forgot, they came to a second place, and one of them did like Beis Hillel. He stayed in the second place, didn't go back to his first place, and a lion came along and ate him up. Which means that even though sometimes you follow the din, it's not wrong that you should spend more effort on trying to fulfill what's more proper, not for the other. The second case was a man who traveled far, decided that the din is like Beis Hillel, still go like Beis Shammai. Came back to his first place and found a sack of gold there. So we see how important it is for a person to be mahader to do a mitzvah properly. All this is said. Of course, we still say you go to a second place, you bench there, you probably will not beat up by line, because the din is still like Beis Hillel. All this is spoken only in the case where a person washed. He ate bread, he goes to a second place, they continue his meal. If it was not bread, if he ate cake or fruit, there are a whole different set of laws. In one sentence, you cannot eat fruit here, but continue this eating of the fruit elsewhere. Elsewhere means in a different room. You go from the kitchen to the living room while eating a fruit, even if you have the fruit in your hand and it's wrong, then you run into a whole set of Shabbos with brachas. We'll take up those laws in a different section of the religion. Let's hope that we have the kind of all these mitzvahs with Hidu mitzvah, through the chedes of the mitzvah, the covered Shemayim, to zecher thereby to see the scale setting paid up. Very briefly, we'll take one halacha now. Next week we'll have more time to pay back. We mentioned yesterday that a person who sits at a meal is not supposed to leave the room to go elsewhere to complete the meal or to partake of another meal and come back. But if he, at the time he made a mitzvah, had in mind, in his mind, he's going to go somewhere else to complete his meal there, and there at the bench, it is permissible. But he's supposed to be careful to at least eat a kazayas bread the second place he's going to. This is permissible only when it is definitely a sudas mitzvah he's going to. Special sudas, otherwise it should not be practiced. A person should not leave the place he's eating. In fact, those who are brought up properly, you had a very strict father who taught you that never leave the table. You sit down to the table with this bath, you don't turn your back on it, you don't walk out of the room at all. If you have to get a safer, if you have to get something, you send the woman, send the wife, you yourself stay put at the table, and that's the covet, the Shulchan is there. So, at no time should a person start a meal at one place and finish in a second place, unless there is a definite sudas mitzvah where it cannot be helped. There are cases that I cannot discuss with no detail. We should be zecher to fulfill the emes. All the mitzvahs are are covered with Hashem. The Mizbeach of Hashem, which we know how to bring the true Kabbalas on the Mizbeach. Now, we know Tzachzin and Mashiach, the official Arizal. If a person in the middle of the Suda, in the middle of his meal, takes time out to daven. A meal means when he ate bread, not when he ate anything else. He made a mitzvah on bread, he's eating a meal, and he stopped in the middle of the meal to daven mincha, for example. When it's getting late, so he wants to daven mincha in the middle of the meal, which is a hefsek in the middle of the meal. If he goes back to eat, the entire seed does not require making another mitzvah. It doesn't require starting a new meal. So too, if he did anything else which was considered a hefsek. For example, if he went to the bathroom in the middle of the meal, he has not to make a new mitzvah. However, he must wash his hands again, the same as for bread, because it's considered a hesach hadas. Now, the kitzur shechalorach is a strange din. Menachem is also strange because he knows he takes a din from one simon which discusses this. Actually, it's going to discuss more in a different simon. Very strange. There, the Halacha says the same thing. There, the Mechaber says that if he goes to the bathroom in the middle of the meal, that he must make a new bracha on washing hands. Washing hands for bread he must do. There he says must make a bracha. Mashal is chelik on that din. Has both with the mashal very strongly. Many guys. Other chelik on the Mishnah itself. Seems to, well, he gets it from others too, but his decision, his compromise is, the person goes to the bathroom, Katanim, then it does not require a bracha on the Tikuney Zohar. He goes to the bathroom, so it requires a bracha on the Tikuney Zohar. That's the Mishnah Paskins, and of course you have enough Paskins following that to say that the bracha should be made. The kitzur is a very strong posek in many cases. Especially when the kitzur says, do not say a bracha, then it would be enough to throw a doubt into the bracha itself. Whenever there is a doubt, even if the doubt is smaller than the majority, minority doubt, the bracha should not be said. Your suffix, bracha is bracha. Whether the doubt making a bracha, always avoid making that bracha. Always. You have the slightest doubt, but the bracha is said or not, you do not say a bracha. You're not allowed to say a shim name unless it is a positive item. Only one case, two, but the more than practice, one case where a person says a bracha even when in doubt. That is the case of Bikas HaMosek. Benching is, you say a bracha even when in doubt, because benching is the only bracha, aside from Bikas HaMosek, which is Midaraisa. All brachas are Midaraisa. Every bracha we have, without exception, all Midaraisa. Only benching, Bikas HaMosek, the first bracha on the Torah, those are Midaraisa. So because whenever there's a suffix in that Torah, you always go to Chumla. You go to Chumla, you have to make bracha. Now the suffix in the Aharon, in most cases, we go to Kula, then the suffix bracha is Lahaka. In this case, the Meiser would be, it should require more research on it, but it would seem from this that the bracha should not be said. The thing is that actually there are so many poskim majority against this halacha. Chaber himself, there are more who don't argue this point. So, Beintayim at least, the Meiser, the person goes to the bathroom in the middle of the Suda, must wash his hands like he would with bread, and the bracha should not be said because of the suffix, at least present. When a person finishes eating and he decided to bench, the bench means that he washed by the chayim. And of course, when you wash by the chayim, you're not supposed to talk or really have to be possible. It's best if possible to bench immediately after the chayim, not to make any long any pauses in between washing by the chayim and benching. We'll discuss that more. That's a very important chayim to learn in the Ivan. We'll get to that halacha by the chayim. But at least You cannot talk in all of them. And surely you cannot eat. When a person decides that he's finished eating, for example, he says Shira Noise and his bubble, or even without that, his mind he decided that he's absolutely going to bench now. He said, bring the Menachem, for instance, his mind was 100% muhlach, decided he's going to bench. He's not allowed to eat anymore. He has lost the chance to eat. Besides to eat, now, for benching, he reconsiders that he decides to eat, then he has to make a new bracha whatever he's going to eat. It'll be a piece of cake with tea, you have to make mazenis and shahadam. Of course, that is much more advisable. The Mason, that's the halacha, much more advisable. The din says too, that a person should avoid this definitely. Absolutely avoid this. What then should he do? He decided to bench, he should bench. He decided, don't back out. You are bound now to bench without eating anymore. You should bench, and after benching, then you could eat or drink whatever you want with a bracha without a doubt. In a case like this, if a person decided he wants to go to the bench, he should keep his word, like having promised. If saying because a Muslim should keep his word and do it. And then, after benching, it will be enough to be able to eat again. This is all in the Sunnah, and in the Sunnah too, we have the dinner about a person who wants to eat something in the middle of a meal, the question of whether you have to make a bracha on this. So, ordinarily, bread, because a mitzvah covers everything. Make a mitzvah, you cover everything you're going to eat or drink in the Sunnah. There's no further brachas necessary until benching. That's ordinarily. And this means even the finish, even if it was an unexpected item. You said that you're sitting and eating and then you receive a gift from somebody, a piece of cake or a special kind of bread, or let's say fish, meat, and you still do not require a bracha. Yes, the mitzvah covers everything, even that which is unexpected. Whereas we'll find later there are other different halachas otherwise. The mitzvah covers everything, which includes all these types of food. It does not include all drinks. It does not include wine. Wine is a special, a davar chashuv, it is a special item which is excluded from all the regular rules. As we see, this is the only liquid that has a special bracha made for it. Wine is not made because this is a special holy item. We call the story, we had the Navi, the thorn was offered the kingdom. And the thorn went to all the trees in the forest and asked them if they wanted to be king instead of him, and they all refused. And he asked the vine, grapes, and they said, no. Why should we bother being king if we are already going to take part in a royal feast? We are kiddush, all items of kedusha have to have wine in it, and it goes on the table of kings, the drinking wine. We see that wine is something very special. That's why wine has a separate bracha, and that is why too, middle of a suda, even though you made a mitzvah, you must make a special bracha for wine. Whiskey has a different din. But in case you make kiddush before the suda, you drink wine, and then you intend to eat immediately, you do not make a bracha chayna on the wine, but you wash, and in the middle of the suda you can drink wine and be covered by the wine you drank just before you started the meal. One item that's you do have to make a bracha for, and that is fruit. The person eats any kind of fruit before and between. This is unless you know very what the fruit is, if you eat the fruit completely with bread, without a stop, a bite of bread and the fruit together, to do it that way, then the bread covers the fruit. Otherwise, the fruit requires a bracha, regardless of whether it comes before the meal or in the meal. And if there is a doubt about the fruit, for example, applesauce, a very difficult item, different customs with applesauce, where the completeness point is last two dinner, so we can start a new halacha, start a generation. The applesauce, there are many customs I've seen. There is, of course, the one that is definitely covers the din. Applesauce is a doubt whether it's fruit that it creates. or whether it's already no longer fruit, it's a mashed item shako. If it's shako, it requires no bread. If it's eight, it requires a bracha. So in this case then, because it is without, so either two ways. Either you take a different fruit and make a bread and have a mind to cover this applesauce, because you really cover it, or else you take the applesauce and you eat it with bread, straight through, a piece of bread with a bit of applesauce till you finish the plate. Otherwise you are left with sucking on the bracha. There's one final item, and that is cake. In the middle of the suga, there's certain kinds of cakes and different reasons for eating them, where a person, let's say, eats a cake just for the pleasure of cake. He likes to have a piece of cake at the meal, at the end of the meal, as a matter of a pleasant aftermath or interlude. In that case, there is something when you make a bracha on a cake, whether it's like fruit or whether it's like a different fruit. And that is why a person, when he makes a bracha, because on Mitzi, he makes the Mitzi should have in mind, I eat cake on this meal, the Mitzi covers that cake. Then you have no suffix, no doubt. Otherwise, you have a suffix you cake into the meal. A person should, at the time of making a Mitzi, cover the cake with a bracha ha-Mitzi. Then he's covered. Well, because a person cannot go through life every time he makes a Mitzi to keep in mind the fact he's covering the cake. Therefore, it is possible that a person should at one time stand up and make a Mitzi and have in mind that hereby I make this Mitzi on its 90 condition that for the rest of my life all cake I ever eat becomes covered with a Mitzi that you're going to make. I'm making it that my Mitzi from now on is one that will cover a cake throughout. Then if he forgets it to cover the Mitzi, which very good he would, and he is still covered because that tonight could help. It's very important tonight for the rest of his life, and in that way he knows that he never has to make a bracha or a cake, or he never has a suffix whether he should not eat the cake at all. There are questions about drinking coffee at the end of a meal, and whether this requires a bracha or not. The din says that it does. Well, there's something about it to make a bracha. It should happen on sugar or something like that. We have not seen this done. It seems a second halacha Chayadim brings this, but the person did not bring this at all, and therefore it is customary that you accept coffee or tea or milk as part of the regular meal. This liquid is part of a meal, and therefore there is no bracha at all set for it. The spec is about if you drink it without it, you get to those things later. But meanwhile, if a person drinks the liquid on the meal, aside from wine, even if it comes at the end, even if it comes as a matter of helping to digest this food and so on, these reasons, then it still is covered by the Bekas HaMetzim. This way, he knows that he's not exactly to say a bracha out of suffix. He's covered completely with the food he eats during the Suda. These are the dinim of the Suda. For next time we start taking up the dinim of Mayim Achleinim, the washing at the end of the meal, and Bekas HaMetzim. Thinking which we to eat the Kedusha of the Tana. So Arizal says that the Ikar Netzach R Nosson, Shvedish R Nosson, made closeness to Hashem that you can get after during the time of the meal, time of the eating. You'll see that you get the closeness to Hashem during the time of davening, during the time of learning, during the time of putting out tefillin, and yet the greatest degree of it also comes there. You understand? That's where it is understood that when you want to speak to a king, you get something from the king, and you sit down to a meal with that king, and the atmosphere becomes warmed up, very friendly. If it's not at a meal, a business type of discussion, it's not that friendly. So many Nosson, to bring about the will of Hashem, the time, accept whatever request he has, that is at the time of the meal. Since it is so, a person should try to keep his meal in as sacred and pure a manner as possible, because that's when you can ask of the king whatever you wish. So the king's will is sort of in your hands. That's why the Gemara says that Hashem shows favoritism to Jews because of something they do which pertains to a meal. Of course, they eat a little bit and they bench on it. Once mentioned The Gemara says that Halacha asked Hashem, you say that posek you do not show favoritism. Hashem is fair, even-handed. How come that you show favoritism to the Jews? You're not even-handed when it comes to Israel. You're not even-handed. Not like Rahab believes even-handed presidents and so on. Hashem says, of course, I show favoritism. Hashem goes, I give them the same measure of treatment they give me. They show favoritism to me, and I say to them, eat your fill, and then bench. Instead they eat a little bit, they eat it because I is a gemeya, and that only enough to bench you. So, which is the Aharon only. Nice, you have to have tzavaka. They go beyond that, they bench. So therefore they show their favoritism, I will show favoritism to them too. That's what the Gemara says. The Zaydik Kodesh asks, how is it possible? What kind of favoritism is that? Hashem says, do a certain mitzvah, so do it right. Mitzvah is to eat your full and then bench. So that's Midanaisa, you're going to go Shia B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B'B' Then you're going to bench big. What's the big thing there? You're going to do something which is smaller mitzvah and bench there. It's small mitzvah. So why is that so good? What is it such favoritism? You're going away from, you have a chance to do a big mitzvah, you're doing a small one. This is favoritism. Where's the logic? You know it doesn't have such strange. Tzadik understood. The answer is the tzadik eats for the satisfaction of his neshama, not the satisfaction of his goof, the body. So a tzadik, you sit down at a table. The next to him is not a rasha, a layman, an ordinary person. The layman eats, gorges himself on a 6-course meal. The tzadik eats a kazayas bread, piece of bread. The tzadik draws from that kazayas bread as much satisfaction, as much seva, as the other person does from a big meal. Why? Because the tzaddik gives so much thanks for this little piece of bread, he appreciates it so much that he is actually filled with this. The tzaddik can bench midalaisa. Tzaddik he eats that little bit, he can bench with the same dalaisa, the same seva, the same satiation as the other person who eats a full meal. So you can see, therefore, this is the favorite thing. Favorite thing, the tzaddik shows such appreciation with so little bit of food. This is therefore the Jews deserve this Messiah's Panu Hashem. We should deserve to receive this Messiah's Panu Behemoth. He said Hashem Panu Halacha. Hashem should turn this Panu to us, Panu front, such a front and back. Hashem, there's no sides by Hashem, no directions by Hashem. Hashem created space, so Panu front and back means Panu is chesed. Hashem turns his back, it means did. That's Hashem is. So Hashem should turn his face to us, he should give us chesed, kindness, and he should give to us shalom, his complete universal peace, with the Jews rising up as the chosen nation forever after, becoming Mashiach. Amen.